Welcome back to my garden, boys and girls. Today we just did a little bit of tilling, which means turning the soil over and adding a little bit of some nutrients into the ground so that when we are ready to start planting our garden plants, they'll have some food in there. So I'm just going to show you so you can compare it to the last time you saw the garden. All right, excuse my hand. Right over here. You can see that we tilled the soil over, so it's all turned. There's a few weeds still left in the garden, but not too much. It's nice. The garden soil is nice and loose now instead of compact. And we did that with all three of the beds. So this was the bed where we had the pumpkins and the squash. And you can see we used a little bit of the pellet food. It's actually going to make our soil a little bit more acidic. So it'll be ready for our vegetables. Right over here. This is the area where I planted the yellow beans last year. I'm still trying to plan out. I'm going to be creating a map for my garden because I do like to rotate the crops, which means not plant the same plants in the same area as the year before. Okay. The first one that I showed you is where we had the tomatoes and the basil last year. This is where we had some of the herbs and the fennel. So this year I may be planting some of my tomatoes in here just to give it a little bit of a change of soil. And then over here, I'd like to show you the blueberry bushes because if you remember the other day I said they were just starting to bud, and you can see over here already, so those are the leaf buds. So those are going to be opening up fairly soon. And even though they look pink right now, they're going to be eventually turning green. But they do start off with a little bit of a reddish tint to them. So you can see some of these branches are very red in color, and then some of them look very, very dry. They all have different times that they start to blossom or bud. This one right here, even though it's dry, I can see that some buds are growing on it. So these are all the blueberry bushes. And I did clean out a little bit of that. I took some roots off out of the ground. Oh, here's Serafina. Come here, Sarah. Hi. She spent some time in the garden with me today. Sometimes she chews on the branches. Good job. And then right over here, these are the strawberry plants that we were looking at the other day. And you can see that these right here started really turning green. We have more here. They aren't ready to flower yet. But you can see these are just very yellow in color. These are just brand new leaves that are starting to sprout out of the ground. And if you look, you can see that we did clean out some of the pine needles from the trees, some of the leaves. There's still a little bit in there, but that actually helps to feed the plants as well. So the lavender, as I said, some of this lavender is very, very dry. I may just end up taking these leaves off because they do have a wonderful scent still to them. But if you look over here, this is the same plant. And you can see some of the leaves are very, very green, and some of them are dry from last year. So it's telling me that this plant has not died. It's still very much alive, even though it looks like it's dry this year. Sometimes it does look that way at the beginning of the season, and then as the season comes around, you see which plants are coming back. So I always like to wait a little while before I pull some things out of the ground. And then finally, here's the apple trees. I'm not sure if that's changed much since last week when we looked at them, but here are some of the leaf buds. You can see that right there. And these little areas right here are going to become the leaves. So what I'll do is I'll take you through the garden again in another week, and you'll get to see how some of these plants have changed with the additional rain and sunshine that we're getting. Thanks for visiting the garden, and we'll see you again in another week. Bye.